There we
What are
go.
we even talking?
We have a few things for today. Well, let's get started. Hello, everyone.
Oh, hello.
Welcome to Tech Talks. I am Victor, here with Julie. And, well, as you asked just a second ago, what we will be talking about is. Looks like you had a couple things about batteries. Did you want to go over that today, or? It says here that you had basic types of batteries.
I don't remember.
Okay.
Sorry.
So we're gonna go over batteries, charging ports, and we won't go over building a computer today.
I wrote down two.
Uh
Might have written them.
oh, I don't. Then I didn't add them to here. And then we also have some Apple news and some a few other things. But we'll just dive into it. So first is batteries. Here it has you is asking what are the basic type of batteries. I'm assuming you mean phone batteries and
Like lithium batteries versus.
ion batteries, things
Yeah.
like that. So basically the battery differences are going to be depending on what machine that they're in. Most any electronic that we talk about with tech is going to be, I believe, they're lithium batteries in phones and everything.
And those are the ones that you can under the airplane pressure.
Pretty much any battery you won't want to put on under an
checked
airplane.
bags,
Yeah, like
okay.
you always want. And it's not to say that like it's guaranteed that they're going to explode or anything. But it's just, yeah, like when you're
Precautionary
yeah, just
better.
precautionary. Because the air pressure and what is it, the distance from sea level, altitude, that's what it is, can have varying effects on batteries. Then you have, I believe, ion batteries. Those are like for bigger batteries, like car batteries and things like that. If you want more power. Now, how to keep them long term?
Go on. I'm gonna add a thing.
How to keep batteries long term? When we'll stick with the computers and tech stuff because that's what we're going with. Is batteries long term? You want them to charge up to 100%, then no longer charge them until they're nearly dead again, and power the battery. It's like let the battery power cycle like that, because that's how they were designed. That's what they're made to do. The chemicals in them. I can't give you like the exact scientific
And that's
formula
which
why.
kind?
The tech computers and things like that.
Oh, they
Yeah.
are that way.
Yes.
I've been saying this.
I know that.
I swear you've been telling me it doesn't matter.
Now, this is going to make sure that they have the longest life cycle.
Yes.
If you have them plugged in, though, it's not going to diminish it ridiculously ridiculous amounts.
Okay, so personal story. I had a laptop from 2009 up until 5 years ago. I had the same computer. It was for 5 years. I had the same really cheap Toshiba laptop. And I tried really hard to always like let the battery drain so that it would be that way, and it was pretty good for most of those 5 years. It was good, but eventually it did get to the point where it has to be plugged in to work.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of ultimately why I stopped using it, because it's a pain in the butt, and then as soon as it unplugs, it just stops. And so it's really important to me, especially because I try to make my tech last as long as I can, that I do the long cycle for the. And so that's why, like, when my tech gets left plugged in when it's already full battery, it drives me so frustrated. Like,
Typically,
oh.
batteries have, like, I think the lifespan usually is about 1,000 charges. Generally, that's like give or take like 1,000 to 2,000 charges.
It's only like 3 years of daily charging.
And you start noticing that after 3 years, your phone like becomes significantly more dependent on charging throughout the day. That's typically the point where you notice it as a consumer.
But it is good. So it is, what you're saying though is it is confirmed ideal to not just charge or leave it plugged in charging all the time, but to let it get down to 20 or 30% before charging it back up again.
Yeah, it might, like, if you leave it plugged in all the time, it might take off a few months of lifespan when it comes to being able to use
It's
it
hard
unplugged.
to say exactly how long.
It's hard to say.
Per device.
Per device, per battery, per wattage, per milliampage.
And like, there's no need to micromanage. So like,
Mm-hmm.
once it passes its payoff, it's worth it. Okay, that's good. Well, good to know, but have.
Then what about leaving the charge cord and brick plugged in? Again, like they generally is it's obviously the safest thing to do is have it unplugged.
Yeah, you're supposed to generally have things unplugged.
But they are designed like they're
not always designed. This is how some of them have fires, I believe. Is when you leave the brick plugged in, like the charge cord or the unit plugged in, but you take the device off, and then there's still charge coming from your outlet to the charger, and so you're supposed to unplug it.
It's not cycling like
especially for bigger charge cords, like for laptops. For computer or for phones, I think most everyone leaves their phone's charge cord plugged in.
But the power is cycling through, and unless there's a short in there, really that's what would do it. Is like there is more opportunity for a short somewhere in the circuitry. The more things you have plugged in. But if there's nothing shorted, there's no problems like with the equipment, then it's not going to miraculously create a short. Because that's just how it's designed to be used.
I'd still say best practice is unplug your charge cord for larger devices, laptop or larger at least. Tablet, I'd be on the fence about, depending on how easy it is to unplug it.
The tablet is the same, like it's all the same system. It's just how much power is going through it. Like a laptop has more power being sent to it because it charges the battery faster the more power that's sent to it.
So why, okay, if they're the same,
it's the same.
Why is there like the big rectangle part in the middle of the laptop charge cords?
Those are the power converters, or well, I'm not exactly sure, adapters. I'm not sure about the technical term, but what it does is it allows it to send more power to the device, and like generally the bigger the device, the bigger the bricks are going to be. So you have that brick at the end, and so that you can send more charge to the device, but it's still the same concept, whether it's a phone or whether it's a bigger brick device. It's just how much power is being sent through it. Nowadays, phones have more wattage being sent to them, and with the USBC, we just got those 30-watt bricks.
But they're not the size of a brick. You're still calling it a brick, but it's still just like the less than 2-inch cube.
It's a smaller version, but it's the same principle. And it's just designed to send more wattage out, more so that you can get fast charging for your phones. So that instead of taking 8 hours like phones used to take, now you can charge them in 2 or 3 hours. But it's the same principle.
Yeah. I am glad to hear you say though about the what is it called? Long charge cycle?
Yeah, the long charge, the charge, letting the power cycle through your device is the bet. And to add to that, see, the smaller the battery, it's more important to do that because the battery wears faster on a smaller battery wears faster, meaning you go through your charges faster.
So for phones, it's more important than tablets, which are more important than laptops.
Yeah, in theory, that's how it would go. Because the battery technology is about the same throughout all of them, so they all kind of have the same relative amount of charges. Like laptops would have, in theory, more charges available to them, just because the chemicals don't wear out as fast. Or they wear out the same rate, but they have more chemicals to work with. You know what I'm saying?
So it's not like a half-life type of thing, or it is?
The half-life of each individual cell is going to be the same between the devices.
When I mean half-life, like, is in the breakdown, like...
Yeah, the battery is the same throughout all the devices, and the batteries are split up into cells. But on a laptop, there's going to be more cells. So it'll take longer to go through them, but they all will break down at the same rate as a phone's battery.
All right. So.
Okay, recycling batteries.
That one. Oh, yes.
How and where, and why not just throw them in trash? Because they're toxic. Have you ever had a battery leak on you?
Oh.
They will eat through you like the aliens. What is it in the alien movies? That their blood is toxic and like eats through metal. Like the batteries are corrosive to the point where it like I used to have I got one of these game controllers, those ones that you got at the mall that had like 1,000 games in them, but really it was 10 games that they just repeated over and over again. So we got one of those cheap little bastard things, and the problem was it was battery powered and also powered by cord. Now, apparently, this is one of those things that were not designed to have both battery and cord plugged in. If you plugged the cord in and had the batteries in the device, the batteries would explode.
Ooh.
And they would leak all over you. And so this controller was designed like a Nintendo 64 controller. I don't know if you remember what those looked like. Those had the 3 bars, and you had like the joystick in the middle. And then on the back, there was like a cartridge. Well, in this device, that was where the batteries sat. So if you're playing the controller and the batteries explode and start leaking on your legs, like I'm surprised I don't have scars from them. But yeah, it burnt straight through my jeans. Holes in the jeans, like it just ate through them, and then you just...
All right, so it's toxic material that we definitely don't want on us, and it would be really, really bad to have in landfills. So where do we recycle batteries?
Googling like battery recycling. Oftentimes Best Buys have like some sort of recycling program, or your
tech places.
Yeah, tech places. You can ask around if like they don't have it, then they probably know who does. But yeah, definitely want to. And they might, some places might charge you. Some, depending on the area you go to, you might get charged to recycle them, which is annoying and inconvenient, but you know, better for the world. Yeah. So that's the battery situation. Next up, best way to clean charge port, and to clean a screen, and to clean a keyboard. With a charge port, if you are having troubles, the biggest problem that usually is happening is there's lint in it. Getting a pair of tweezers and just like pulling that lint out carefully so that you're not scratching
or
bending the inside prongs. Nowadays they're pretty good with the design of the inside, so that they're just not like all over the place, but you do need to be careful. And just pulling out lint, I'd say probably 90% of the time that's the problem.
And then you've also had me use a Q-tip and rubbing alcohol, right? To make sure the connection is.
So Q-tip, rubbing alcohol, or just a toothbrush and rubbing alcohol. That will
toothbrush that get the bristles in.
Yeah, that if you are having trouble, especially if you suspect corrosion, then the toothbrush and rubbing alcohol, because the rubbing alcohol dries out fairly fast and won't leave any residue behind or to cause any more corrosion.
And obviously not pouring rubbing alcohol directly on, but put it on the toothbrush.
Exactly.
And the toothbrush.
Because rubbing alcohol can still short circuit the device, so you want to be very careful when you are using it. Now when it comes to keyboards and screens, keyboards, depending on how much filth is in there, you might also want to use rubbing alcohol. If it's a laptop keyboard too, like rubbing alcohol can be okay, but you still want to be very limited with it. Because it is right up on top of the motherboard itself. Mm. So very
minimal of the rubbing.
Yeah. But if it's better. But that's only if it's super gross, right? Like if you have a lot of gunk on there. If it's a keyboard for a desktop, oftentimes you can just pop those keys off, and then you can
take a picture beforehand so you remember where all of yours specifically go.
Yeah. And you can pop those keys off and clean it out. And that one generally just has like a little keyboard input taker. It's not connected to a motherboard. So you can be a little bit more liberal with it, but you can still ruin the keyboard if you do use rubbing alcohol on that. But I mean, if you ruin that keyboard, worst case scenario, it's $20 unless it's a gaming keyboard, which can be quite expensive.
And canned air.
And canned air is a good way to clean out in between keys on
to blow all the debris out.
Yeah, on the laptops and the desktops as well. Yeah. The last thing is with screens. Again, if it's super gunky, then you might end up still using rubbing alcohol.
Just a very, very little bit.
Yeah, but that's if it's
only if it's like stuff gunky. That won't wipe with a microfiber,
and this is
right?
These are especially screens that are that have a glass covering over them, like this laptop here has a glass covering, so like you're not actually touching the screen.
What about ones that you do touch?
When you do touch the screen, I would actually probably not recommend rubbing alcohol. I would just try to use as much dry microfiber cloth as possible. There are some screen cleaning solutions that you could, if you need something liquid to help get something off. And then, but especially when it comes to screens, after you use rubbing alcohol, if you do use rubbing alcohol, and then also if you have a laptop that has kind of a glass body, it's going to leave streaks. So having some sort of screen cleaning solution, we have over there like that end dust, that will clear off the streaks, and that will allow, like, make it look nice. So if it's super gunky, you might end up using rubbing alcohol, but if it's not super gunky, just a regular microfiber cloth, toothbrush, and
toothbrush on the screen?
Not on the screen, sorry. Just in general, if you're using the tools that you would need to clean a laptop.
All right, that's that.
Yep, that is that. Next up is... we won't go into building a computer. It has Google Photos share link versus Google Drive.
I think you already talked about this. How, wait. Yeah, I don't remember.
We'll have to get back to that one. Next thing is Apple is now actually going to supply third-party repair sites with parts.
Oh, that's okay.
And so they have a form. We're actually filling it out right now. I sent them email. they'll confirm the business and things like that, and hopefully I'll keep you in tune. But right now it seems pretty simple. You let them know that you're a business that does repairs. You provide proof that you are that business, and they will allow you to purchase repairs. You do have to go through Apple technical training, and you have to have an authorized technician, so that
At the store.
But yeah, that step forward.
That is.
You'll be able, like, if you don't have an Apple place near you, you can see if the place that the local repair shop is Apple certified repair. And yeah, allowing for third-party repairs. It's pretty nice and a nice step forward, especially after Google has just announced that they're not letting ads for repair shops.
Yeah.
So they're kind of on the bad end of the spectrum right now, while Apple's on the better end of the spectrum. And these things reverse back and forth.
Repairs.
Yeah. Like Apple just announced Apple just had activated on their phone that the battery repairs will be noticed in the phone
because of the pairing.
Yeah, because of the pairing thing. Hopefully this will allow access to that so that you could repair a battery after replacing it. That would be pretty nice, but we'll see how that comes to. Next up, Apple is also dropping iTunes, which they're going to be replacing it with 3 different apps. I believe it was Music, like Apple Music, Apple Podcasts, and Apple TV or Apple Movies or Apple.
What an interesting move.
Yeah, I guess they're getting rid of the whole i system in general.
I mean, that makes sense.
Is what
I
it
think
sounds
it's
like
cheesy, the iTunes i.
It was cool in the 90s and 2000s, but now, marketing has moved on.
I'm not sure for the consumer to split all of those things what the benefit would be, because if you want to listen to something, wouldn't it be nice to just search all of your listenable things, podcasts with music and so forth?
There's nuances to it, because the way you listen to podcasts is not the way you listen to music.
What do you mean?
So music, you often create like a playlist of music, and you have a whole different interface.
You'll listen to it again and repeatedly.
Yeah, you don't necessarily shuffle your podcast or create playlists of podcasts.
Okay, I can see what you're saying.
So it's kind of the concept of, like, you could have one app that does everything kind of shitty, or 3 apps that do everything kind of well.
Okay, that makes sense. I just get bogged down with too many. I've got too many, and I'm sure I'm gonna need more over the years.
Yeah, it's I've been finding, I find it easier to find exactly what you want to do. Find an app that helps you do that. And then if it works alongside with other apps, then great. So, for instance, Google is our example right now when it comes to phones. We use the Pixels because if you went with Samsung, you have all the Google apps because it's a Google Android operating system, and all the Samsung apps, which are already going to overlap with each other.
It's redundant.
Because Samsung has their own mail app, their own internet app, their own Fit app, things like that. So neither one of them is better than the other. So
but you couldn't uninstall them was a part of the problem that I had when I had my Samsung.
Exactly. And also Samsung is partnering with other things like Facebook. You can't uninstall Facebook from Samsung.
You can't uninstall Facebook?
Nope.
That's so
at least in the Samsungs
annoying.
that I've seen recently.
Wow.
So we just stick with Google because it's pure Android experience. Yes, we have the Google apps, but then we don't have any of the other apps. So our music is the Google Music. Our podcast or the Google Podcast, very straightforward. One system correlating with all the apps. I actually stopped using Google Fit though, and ended up using Google Fit or Fitbit because I think the system in there was better.
I don't love either of them.
Yeah, they're not the greatest, but I think the system that Fitbit has is better than the Google Fit system. The one problem it doesn't have is the weightlifting tracking. You can track the amount of time and the intensity of your workout, but you can't actually track like your goals and things. So I have just one separate app just for that portion, and it doesn't sync with it, but it doesn't necessarily have to, because that app is good at doing the one thing really well, which is tracking weights, while Google Fit can track general health goals pretty well. Or Fitbit, sorry. Not Google Fit. But yeah, so those are the kind of the two that's kind of the situation where instead of just having Fitbit be the all-in-one, having two apps, but trying to minimize the amount of apps that you're using, but get everything that you want to have done. Back to your complaint, which was you don't want to have all sorts of apps for everything. That's it. I get it, and that's what I do, is try to minimize the amount of apps I'm using by just focusing on what I want my phone to do, and then don't bother with anything else.
I really wish there was a better audio. At this point, libraries are my best recommendation for audiobooks. We tried Audible for a while. I've tried it a couple times and then stopped, and then tried it again and stopped. But their system is not ideal. I have yet to find one, but the library ones are decent and they're free. So
yeah, I don't have a problem because once I found out that you could just use Audible without having to buy anything.
Sorry.
You just buy the books and then you have them.
Yeah. And like that's fine, but their whole the $15 for 15 points, and then you cash in those 15 points for a book, but the book might be less than $15 value, or it could be greater than if the book's your choice. But it's just it's so murky. Why not just buy the books if you want to buy the books?
Well, you can do that.
Yes. So that's if you're doing that route, Audible's okay.
Same thing with Google.
I think I had this idea just now.
Yeah. I
think they should have through the library, books that the library doesn't have for you to rent or borrow to listen to for free. They should have a rental system where the library gets part of the money, and then of course the royalties are paid for you to rent or borrow the book. And then like after just so many people have rent and done that, maybe the library can own it, or some kind of system like that would be really. Anyway.
Yeah, it's a possibility.
I did a lot with Libby. Updated that app. It used to be Overdrive that my library used, and then both of the libraries that I'm members of, they both switched to Libby. And
it does. When you told me about that, it was actually pretty interesting knowing that the libraries are moving into that kind of direction to be able to access their stock online.
There's so many audiobooks and ebooks
you
can access just through the online free if you're a member of your library.
Last up, well, two things because you added one thing.
Oh yeah.
So two more things actually, three things altogether. The Cam Scanner app was recently found to have malware on it. And this is an app being distributed through the Play Store.
Thanks.
And
so malware is a virus that will then like attach to your device?
Yeah, essentially what malware does is it starts working using your device to do work that's generally nefarious, and
collecting your data,
or connecting your accounts, or like getting your information or sending your information There's a few things. Recently, they just actually announced that there was some malware that was ended up sending you text to get to websites where it was use, and then it would try to auto like use your information on those websites to gain access. So spam sites, like those pop-up spam sites. It was giving your information to those spam sites so they could get access to them. I'm not exactly sure what the whole end goal was there, but it was interesting that they're like this, along with Cam Scanner had its own version of malware, and now there was this another malware found on about 20 different apps from the App Store that they found, and it was just hidden in the code.
Have they now removed all of those?
Everything has, or the Cam Scanner app was kicked off of the App Store for a while, and now it's back
without the malware.
Without the malware, and like as far as we know.
Yeah, but I'd still be I'd be very apprehensive to trust them if that has been something past.
And the Cam Scanner app is a pretty big, it's a pretty like well-known scanner app. Like it's usually like if you don't want to pay for a scanner app or you don't have Adobe, like it's like the first free option.
That's not one that you downloaded.
I don't believe you have the Cam.
I've never used such a. I wouldn't.
But yeah, if you did have that, and there's a list of about 20 different apps that have a different virus malware thing. You want to uninstall those instantly, and then it's hard to trust those companies. Like, and that is something that Apple has over Google, is like they have a lot more curated store, and that they do pretty intensive testing to make sure that apps aren't doing these kind of shady things background.
So at this point, is the App Store on Apple?
Yeah, definitely safer. And then and right now it's actually getting even weirder when it comes to games like Fortnite. Not even going through the Play Store, you download it separately through the Fortnite store, or like Fortnite's website.
So you now
and then you have to tell your phone to allow apps from other unauthorized sources. Like
that does. And then so wait, once you tell your phone to allow that, even just the one that, does it open up potential for other things to accidentally download?
You can download, at that point you can download any APK and install.
I don't know what APK.
APK is the file format for phone apps.
Oh, okay.
And so you will start seeing a lot of more places starting to use, like operating systems starting to use their own storefronts, like Google Play Store, the Windows Play Store, or the Windows App Store, or the Apple App Store. But they have fees associated with them. So if I sell something on there, they take a fee for having it on their store. And so you'll see games like Fortnite that are big enough that they don't need it. They can just say, hey, we're selling it. You can just download it from our website, and they have a big enough audience that you know already. You don't have to go to the App Store. But they'll try to avoid, losing money on just having on people's storefronts. So it's going to be interesting to see how this moves forward. If the storefronts start not charging people for being on the storefront, but have a way more curated system, I think that would be the ideal way of doing things. You can still download independently if you want, but I think the storefront should definitely be the safest place to go to for these things.
In general, just
like given like that kind of power that Apple, Google, Windows, they can be held responsible for that. And I don't think that's too terrible of a curation, because if you know what you're doing, you can find it elsewhere. The other thing was, what was the other two? Oh, so I was actually listening to Joe Rogan the other day, and he had Neil deGrasse Tyson on, and they actually started talking about the targeted ads on Facebook and all of your devices. Joe Rogan even goes so far as saying, they're listening on the camera, on your microphones at all times, and you'll get pop-ups for what things you're talking about in home, even though you're not talking to Google specifically. And Neil deGrasse Tyson said that, like, he heard that happens, and that's why they don't have like a Alexa or a Google Home at their place. And he's very much in the mind of not like trying to avoid this whole or this whole crusade that tech is going to be into immersed in your lives, right?
Okay.
And it was interesting because a few months ago, Joe Rogan had MKBHD on, and he had the opposite opinion of like, look, they have our information anyways. I might as well take as much advantage of it as I can by letting it, like, by having it tell me the traffic home, by having it tell me, when my next flight is, and, giving me updates on that stuff, instead of, because it's not like they don't have the information, so why would I not bother, or why would I just avoid utilizing that myself?
In general, I would take that stance because while it is frustrating to think that privacy is where you don't think of it being a breach, it is convenient, it is highly convenient, and oftentimes the services are free. And so the way they run is by ads, and the way you get so many ads is they curate them, right? My biggest thing is I'm generally not saying things that I'd be concerned about it overhearing.
Mm-hmm.
Granted, we only have one in our home, so it's not even that it could hear most of the things we say. It's only in the living room, so it's probably more than anything here in our TV. Besides that, my biggest concern would be confidential conversation. So if it was true that devices are listening more than just like a Google Home or the Alexa, similar devices, those you kind of almost expect it. It could still breach confidentiality. That is a good thing to keep in mind, for sure. I would hope that our phones don't have mics that are listening all the time, because literally,
well, they have the OK Google thing.
It's on the phone, and only if you say OK Google does it supposedly listen. But
it's listening all the time for those words, but then supposedly it's not sending that, like it unless it hears those words, it's not sending anything to servers. Now, Joe Rogan and a few others claim that it is actually sending that, because they've
gotten marketing based on they haven't said.
Yeah.
That's interesting. I haven't encountered that firsthand myself.
I haven't either, and so I'm still skeptical on that. But there have been other situations where Google Home has accidentally turned on and listened to things that people didn't want them listening to.
Yeah, I think that the biggest thing is that companies have to be transparent. If they are listening, people have the right and need to know that. Again, there are confidential conversations on a daily basis that happen, and if my phone were actually listening, I wouldn't be able to take my phone to work, for example. Like that, it's not worth having the convenience of a phone if it really puts your job at jeopardy.
So, yeah, I agree. Like, it seems that if what they're saying is true, that it is spying all the time, then that is like a no-go. But when it comes to the Google Home, right, it tells you like when it's listening, you have the lights lighting up, and there's usually like a little ding sometimes. That way, so you know when it's actually actively listening to you and sending stuff. And yeah, I'm in the mind like it's gonna happen anyways. There's not really much we can do about it unless you just go off the internet altogether. And this is kind of our fault for like wanting a free internet, right? We don't pay for Facebook, we don't pay for YouTube, we don't pay for Google, so
Right.
they have to monetize it in a way where, and this is what they found was,
Yeah.
you know, being able to sell targeted ads which are more effective, right? Like you can
Well,
pay.
and for people too, for consumers, a lot of times those ads
Mhm.
are more effective.
This was also the other thing that Neil deGrasse Tyson said about it was if you go if he's in the mind, if I go to a store and somebody tells me or asks me if I'm if they could help me look find something, then I will probably spend less at that store than if they left me alone, because they robbed me of the opportunity of browsing, was the way he put it. He might have found something that he didn't even know he wanted.
And that might be for some people. I'm either in the mindset that I'm going to browse and it doesn't matter if this person talks to me or not, or I'm in the mindset that I need to get the thing and get out. Like, and if I know where it is, great. If not, I'm going to ask some. People asking me at a store doesn't. And he's probably right that on the internet, some people will be more likely to browse, but the ads aren't looking for people who are browsing. They're trying to present things that you might be tempted to get or are likely to get. And then now it's making it more convenient, or they might be offering you like a discount, some kind of deal, and or they're just shoving their brand in your face, and so that when you think of that item, you think of their brand.
Yeah. And I mean, it's more cost effective, the targeted ads for the companies too, right? Before they had to spend lots of money to reach a wide audience to hit only a certain target. Well,
That makes
now they can
sense.
go spend that money on that specific target and get more bang for their buck. More of those people will buy the products, and you get a larger percentage back, essentially. And
I would think though, if the Google, those things were listening in people's homes when they're not saying the wake up prompt to the device, I would think that that would put those tech companies that are doing that in a sticky situation for a few reasons. One, around laws that say, like, if you have a reasonable reason to believe that you are in a safe place free of being recorded, that you can't, people can't just do that. And I think most people in their own homes where they have those devices, their idea is that they're in a safe place, not being recorded, one. And two, then I think it would also put them into sticky situations around, like, if they were to hypothetically hear malicious criminal conversations, if there was a criminal, I don't even, like a,
obligation.
yeah, like drug deals, or like if say a drug maker, meth maker, I don't know, one of those people who makes drugs or deals drugs had a Google Home or an Alexa in their house and overheard those kinds of conversations, or violent conversations, domestic violence kinds of conversations, wouldn't that, in they're collecting that information, then they are aware, doesn't that put them in a position that, well, if they've got all these files, shouldn't they then be doing something about it? If, like, it's either like you shouldn't listen at all, or if you're listening, then you at least have to address when there are criminal things. And I know that's, like, again, breaching the whole, you believe you have reason to not think you're being recorded, so you shouldn't be being recorded. It's just a very sticky gray area.
Yeah, I don't think that they would have any obligation to report anything that they find, but it's unfortunate, but that you end up uh, the impact of them, like that, their reach, being able to hit anybody and everything, would be far more egregious than letting the process work as it is for the criminal justice. Like, if you allow, if they, like, if that were to be the case, where they would send reports of people to law enforcement agencies, then you end up starting forward a society where maybe it's not just homes anymore. Maybe they'll, like, just anywhere at any time, you're always being recorded and trying to find the outlier. And then on top of that, if it, what if one day it becomes criminal just to, like, just like they're kind of doing now when it comes to the whole partisan world that's happening, where if you say something uh um say something that people don't like, then they could they could just shut you down altogether. And so now you don't have that. So now it's not just online where you can say something wrong. You can just literally say something wrong anywhere at any time and anywhere in the world.
So it seems like the bottom line that you and I
Yeah.
are getting to is we agree that ideally none of these speakers, none of these devices would just be listening without authorization and without the knowing that it is listening in a limited time frame.
Yeah.
That is, I mean, it sounds like there are people who have other thoughts that it might be happening, that they have reason to suspect anecdotally that.
Yeah. They have some people reporting that, that they'll say, like, Tide Pods, and then, like, next thing they know, they go on their Google or Facebook feed, and Tide Pods are, like, there.
Is that a specific example?
I can't remember exactly what the specific example is. I think I saw a video of it before, but who knows, like how.
Because that specifically is an interesting example, because, like, I've never searched Tide Pods, but I think Tide would probably just do random ads, so it could be coincidence that he happened to have a conversation that came up, and then it just happened to be.
Well, it wouldn't be. It wouldn't be that Tide specifically targeted him. It would be that Google sold them a lot of, Google sold them a lot of ad spaces, and then Google figured out, all right, these people are talking about Tide Pods, so let's throw it like that ads to them.
But here's my argument again around that. Like, if they're already talking about Tide Pods specifically as their laundry detergent, they're not saying the words laundry detergent. Wouldn't it make more sense for Tide to go for the buzzword laundry detergent or wash my laundry or words like that rather than their brand name?
My example was, like, more of an example than the actual, like, what it was. Like, it was a hyperbole of what they are claiming is going on, right?
Yeah.
He just says Tide Pods.
He's saying not things that general, like, not like toilet paper. Everyone uses toilet paper. You can market toilet paper to anyone. It's more of the specific things, like, you're not as likely to advertise baby toys to college that don't have kids.
I would have to show you the example. But
yeah, we might watch it at some point.
Yeah,
we'll let it drop for now.
Yeah,
like, our
essentially, people are thinking that that they're listening.
Yeah.
All the time, and I don't necessarily believe it. I've not had that experience at all.
They probably would have AI that aggregates the data if that were the case, but I mean, at that point, it is just aggregated data. It's not as though there is a person sitting and listening to your conversation.
Yeah, that's also most likely the case, and
not enough people.
There's just not enough people,
and our conversations are
and
just
it's not that
important enough. Yeah,
right? Like,
who cares that dear, please turn your socks inside, right? Like, Google doesn't care.
Yeah.
most of the things we have to say.
And that was so that was the MKBHD and Neil deGrasse Tyson having two different thought processes on the same thing.
Yeah, it's interesting. They're completely polar.
Mm-hmm.
But the last thing that I had added to our list for today is just a thing that has been annoying to me lately. I don't think that voicemail boxes automatically tell people when those voicemail boxes are full, because I've had a few times lately where I've been trying to call someone and I cannot leave a voicemail. I get to their voicemail box and it just says, this person's voicemail box is full, you cannot leave a message, bye, and it hangs up. And for me, this was frustrating because it was my retirement financial advisor, and I've been trying to get a hold of him for weeks, and him and his secretary both had full voicemail boxes, and it's like,
yeah,
check your voicemail box. I guess if you keep voicemails, it fills up your box. I don't know what the given amount is. It doesn't seem very large.
Are they using their phones, or do they have like office voice, like an office system?
It's their phone.
I don't know how, because that you would think, especially with cloud storage, like that could hold a lot of audio.
But I don't think that voicemails are stored on the cloud. They're stored on your device.
That's true. Probably, but this still can hold a lot of audio.
But it hasn't been.
Yeah.
Like, this has happened multiple times, and the most
or
frustrating
they have a lot of voicemails that they just never.
Because like,
in theory, they could have just had their phone for years and they just never deleted a voicemail.
I didn't used to delete all of my voicemails. I used to keep them a lot of the time. Reference. And now after I've had this happen so much lately, I've decided, well, especially that scenario I gave you guys, I've decided, well, I need to make sure that my voice boxes. I recommend everyone else do the same, because you don't know what you're missing.
I'd probably say like a good yearly cleanup is apropos.
Well, depending on how many you get per year.
Yeah, I mean, even if you only get 6 in a year, or like the next year, you just
get more than that, I'm sure.
There are, but I'm saying like a yearly cleanup, because you.
I get that many a month.
Like, that's fine, because if 6 a month, that's still plenty. Like, you're not gonna run out of space in a year, but you never.
I think you do.
I don't think so.
I don't know, but check it, because I don't think it tells consumers like when your phone is full. May have just not gotten a voicemail for a long time.
I wonder also if they just have a set amount of voicemail, but that doesn't.
Well, when I finally did get a hold of my financial guy, he was just like, okay. Like, yeah.
Oh, I don't know what that, like, that just means that he is not going to delete his voicemails.
Well, no, I think he has since deleted them now, but he was just like, oh, okay, like, you think my voicemail box won't take more? I haven't heard any such thing. He seemed very skeptical when I told him, like, your voicemail box is full. I've been trying to get a hold of you, but unable to leave voicemails. That's why you have missed calls from me. But no voicemails. You might address that.
Well, most people understand that voicemail boxes can get full. That's just one guy that doesn't understand.
Well, but I think people assume that it will tell you it's full.
Yeah, people assume that it tells you it's full, but your particular example sounded more like he didn't even believe that was a concept.
Hard to say. Anyway.
But yeah, it should tell you if it's full. I don't know why it wouldn't.
But they don't. I've never had a voicemail. I've never known anyone to. It just gets full. Done.
Yeah, I haven't actually heard of anybody saying it, but it's also not a conversation I have most with people, and I don't have enough voicemails to ever have that be a problem for me. So, who knows?
Not a topic we can really answer, but that other frustrating one is when you get to someone's voicemail box and then it doesn't actually give you time to record a message. It beeps, and then 1 second later is like, all right, press 1 to submit, press 2 to make it urgent, and it's like, didn't let me say anything.
Yeah, I could barely get my name in before on some of these people. And then there was an option to add to it, and I used that option to add to it, but then it was like it literally was like a split second.
I don't know what to do, and I don't know. So this one that I'm having I don't know what to do with the lady because this is like a first contact. I've never talked to this teacher, and
You have to just figure out how to say your name, your occupation in like 2 seconds.
faster than an auctioneer.
Yeah.
Anyways, hopefully the voicemail system will progress with the times eventually. People
Hopefully.
still use.
Well, that was Tech Talks for today, and hopefully you guys liked it. If you did, like and subscribe, and we will see you guys
Next one.
on the next one.